there, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today I have the project video for our monthly kit from Hero Arts. So hopefully you've already seen the video that goes with this video. There's always two with our monthly kits, one showing you the review of the kit and then this project video. So hopefully you've seen the review. So now on to the actual project. So I'm going to be using the card that's in the kit, the coloured card, to make my card base, which will make a standard A2 card. That's an American A2, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I've got a piece of white cardstock here that is 4 and 5 1/4, and then a second piece that's 4 and 3 inches. I then took, using this new masking tape that I've got, again with everything, I'll put a list with links to all the products used. I created a circle. I just die cut that circle out from that masking tape, and I've stuck that down in the top right hand corner there because I'm going to be inking to create my sky, and obviously I want some sort of sun in my sky, so I want to blank that out so that I could easily put in the sun. So I'm just marked up on my piece of paper here a pencil line just to show roughly where the other piece of card will come to, just so I don't waste a ton of time and ink by inking stuff I don't need to. Now I'm just taking it slightly below that line, but it's roughly to that area. Now I'm using one of the Creative Expressions sponges. These are the smoothies, and what I like about this is that it goes on really smooth if you want it to, but I can also create kind of quite a good textured look, which is what I'm trying to do. It's a sunny day, but I want a little bit of sort of cloud going on, so I try to create a bit of texture. And then for the bottom half here, this is going to be my water, because if you remember from the review video, it was kind of a lake scene type of stamp set. So I'm using the inks that are in the kit, but I did add in an ink here from my normal Hero Arts collection, just to add just a little bit more bluey. It's I think it's called Pool, this ink, and it is a blue ink, but it's more sort of towards the aquatones, so it just gives that a slightly more watery look. But obviously I want it bluey enough that it looks like it's kind of reflecting the sky, but not so blue that it's clearly not sort of still water. So I decided when I went and compared the two that the water part was too dark compared to the sky, so I wanted to add a little bit more depth to my sky. So I've just gone in, and actually by adding the depth, not only did I add depth, but I added a little bit more texture to it, and I really quite like the sort of effect that had. It sort of really added a really nice colour, kind of cloudy effect. So then another ink that wasn't in the set, the kit, is this Butter Bar, also from Hero Arts, and I'm just using my little dauber. This isn't a Creative Expressions one, but it's one of these little egg-shaped things that you can get, these sponges, and I'm using just the end of it to create my sun, and then just going out from that to as if the golden rays are coming out from the sun, and then I put a small amount onto the actual water as well, so that it looks like the sun is reflecting into the water. I then took the blue that we used from the kit and stamped the water sort of marks that were in the kit onto the water. However, you'll notice here already that ink has dried. It's dried a little bit paler than I was expecting, so I will actually be changing that a little bit later, but not at this point. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually creating my reflections. So I've taken first my trees, and again I'm just using the ink that's in the kit. This is the paler green, and I put it on the stamp, and then I dabbed it off slightly with my cloth there, just to make it a little bit more patchy, a little bit like it's on the water. It's not perfect. And then I took a grey. Now I didn't have a Hero Arts grey, so I've actually used a Stampin' Up grey, and for this is the mountains reflecting into the water. I really wanted to make it really watery at this point because they're a lot further away than even the trees. So I put my ink on, and then I sprayed it with some water just to really kind of give that effect. And I wasn't sure about it at this point, but actually when it's finished it comes out really, really well. I'm really pleased with it. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm taking some of the scrap card. This is actually Create and Crafts core card, And I had some pieces in my little pouch that was sort of odds and ends that were left over from other cuts and things. So I'm using some of those, and I'm stamping my different elements that I'm from the stamp set, and I will then be die cutting them out, hence why I'm stamping them on the spare card. For this, it's my mountains, and for this I'm actually stamped off because the first colour stamp was going to be too dark, and then for this layer I'm actually using the same colour ink, but I'm not going to stamp it off, and that's just going to create that depth that we need. And I just think it does look really, really effective, and it's really great layering as always with Hero Arts, and it just comes out really, really well. I think you'll see here that it actually really looks, it's hard to see with the light. I think you'll wait till it goes on the card and see it a little bit better. And to be honest, as always, I would definitely recommend going over to the blog post, because you'll always see the close-ups of the finished card on the photographs, and it's so much easier to see what it's going to look like. So now we're doing my trees. Again, for the trees we have layering. So I started off with the lime colour, and then I went in for the layer with the darker green, so I didn't use the same colour on this occasion. So next I went back to my actual scene background pieces, and I just wanted to add a few elements, and the first thing I added was the two little birds, and then there's also a larger duck that's flying, and also I wanted to add a sentiment. For this I'm using a Hero Arts black ink that actually came in a previous kit. Now you'll see I put down the mountains previously of the stamp of the mountains, and that was really just to position those different elements so that I could see roughly where to put them. And then obviously in the next bit I added some little ducks to the lower element as well. And then the next thing I did was just carry on stamping out the different elements on the scrap card. So for this is our little pontoon. I used the two brown inks. Again, this has got several layers, and you'll see that the first layer, it didn't stamp out 100% perfectly and smoothly. I wasn't too worried about that because I quite liked how that was going to come through on the effect of that. And then I picked out two of the kids that were jumping into the water, and again for that I used my black ink that I had from a previous kit. Then I went to the dies. I stamped out all my elements, so I wanted to die cut them all. So I've taken all the different bits and I'm putting them through my machine. Now you'll note with the mountain and the little trees that it doesn't cut it out at the bottom edge, and that is deliberate. It's just to give you an opportunity to decide how deep you want it to go, because you might want to take it down a little bit. I cut the trees out absolutely perfectly to the line of the bottom of the stamped image, but for my mountains here you'll see I've just taken it very slightly in at the sides there, and then I haven't quite gone to the bottom of the stamped image. I've gone just a little bit further, and that's to help me when I stick the trees down, because I wanted to pull the trees down lower and give that dimension, and it just gave me something to stick them to. So now all my elements are cut and die cut and stamped, etc. So we're going to make the card. So I'm using the green. I just scored and folded it in half, and then I cut a couple of layers in the beautiful blue for the actual layering on the card, and I stuck those in. So the next bit I need to do is start constructing the different elements. So I'm taking my trees first of all, and I'm sticking them down on my mountains. What I realised when I was doing this, when I was sort of lining things up, was that the mountains are actually wider than the stamped trees. But I did see that there was a die that was trees, but it wasn't actually part, as far as I can tell, for any particular die cut, particular stamp. So I die cut it and used it as an additional layer to get that width. Now obviously I could have narrowed my mountains, but I actually wanted them that width. That fitted perfectly for the dimension that I had. It was just about right for what I needed. I think in the end it was just very slightly wider. However, when I popped those down, I thought I still wasn't 100% because there was like this little gap, and I just didn't like the way it kind of just fell off. The trees kind of just stopped behind. Now I had a couple of trees that I'd snipped off from the die cut because I thought that was too long, and I snipped them off already, and so I used those and popped them behind the ones that I'd already stuck down, so I had to peel it off a little bit. It wasn't ideal, it was a little bit of a mess, but I thought I could rescue it, and it was fine once it was stuck down. And as you can see now, it has two things that's worked here. One, it's filled in that little gap, but also it stopped that front die cut actually dipping, which was much better. Look, you probably didn't notice it in the video here, but it really showed actually when you were in life with the eye. It sort of, you could see that it kind of dipped down. I didn't like that. So you can see here the mountain does drop off the edge of my card just a little bit, but what it does is it gives me a bit of wriggle room, because as you can see I'm very slightly off to that side and obviously quite a lot off to the other side, but it just gives me the opportunity to move it into the position I need it to because of the stamp and sentiment and the little birds in the sky. Although I try to get a rough idea by using just the actual rubber stamp on the background there when I was positioning those pieces, it's still nice to have that maneuverability because you can never be sure you've got it 100%. So the next thing I did was stick my lower background down, my leg, and what I did was I had cut it to be 3 inches, but I found that it actually needed to drop down just a little bit more because I just needed that bit more space in the sky, and actually I didn't need as much space on the leg as I thought, so I just dropped it down and I took probably about 1/4 of an inch off, so it probably finished off as being, instead of 3 inches deep, about 2 3/4. At this point I decided to stick the actual design down onto my card base because I wanted to put some of these elements actually off the side of the design very slightly, so I wanted it to go past the edge of my actual background here and slightly overlapping the actual card layers. So first of all I'm just adding these lovely little reeds behind the pontoon. I haven't stuck it down yet. It's easy enough just to get it roughly in position by just holding it in place and then sliding them in, and you know it's going to be roughly right. It's not got many places it can go. When you put it back down, you know it's going to be central, so it's going to be pretty hard to get that off too much. But if you perhaps have got a wider card, you might want to stick it down and then just slide those bits in real fast before it gets too stuck. Then I added, this was the bit where I said to you before I wasn't happy with the kind of little ripples on the water, so I actually used some white ink that I'd previously got from Hero Arts kit as well, I believe, and then just stamp those down just to add a little bit more sort of dimension. I then took the other bits of reeds and I cut one in, well I was going to say in half, but it wasn't quite in half, it was like 3 bits on one side I think and 1 bit on the other, but I cut it up and I put them down beside the pontoon, and then I put the 2 complete ones over the front of the pontoon, and I just felt that that looked really nice. However, you'll notice that one side I've actually moved the reeds over slightly just so the pontoon shows through a little better. I then stuck my people down and I just popped those up so they were going above into the trees a little bit. I thought that looked kind of cool. And then I still wasn't 100% happy with my water. I felt it lacked that bit of glisten. So I added this beautiful stickles. It was like an icy blue. And then, of course, on the top of the mountains, to give it that look that it's snowy and gorgeous, I just added some stickles up there. And that was just like your normal crystal stickles. And I just think this looks so gorgeous. I was really, really pleased with how this turned out. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but I did feel at this point there was something missing in that the people weren't popping enough, and I thought, well, let's put some glossy accents on them. And actually what I liked was when it dried, it kind of looked like they'd been jumping in the water and they were kind of wet and glistening, and I just thought that was quite effective. You'll see behind this card that there's an envelope. This is an envelope that I made to complement it. I've actually done a separate video, so this week not only 2 videos for the kit, but you have a 3rd video showing the custom envelope. So I hope you like it, and I hope you go over and watch that video as well. As always, I will put all of these videos together on the one blog post, so if you want to find them, the easiest thing to do is to go to the paragraph below this video on YouTube, click where it says show more, you'll find a link to the to the blog post, hop on over there and you'll find all of the videos, you'll find all the links to the products that I've used, and of course tons of photos. You know how I like to do a load of photos. So I hope you've enjoyed this kit, and I hope you've enjoyed the project and the card that we've made. I'd love to hear what you think, but otherwise for now, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.